All right, and welcome back. Good to have you with us. Now we're going to start getting into the strategy, because now we've already looked at our flawed premise and the story we hold and how we think love hurts. Meanwhile, it's actually the absence of love that hurts, not love itself. All right, let's get into the strategy. The strategy is, we're just going to dive straight in. Conscious, proactive, aligned intimacy, C.P.A.I. And how can we implement this? So we're going to jump straight in. And number one is know yourself and care for yourself first. Now that might sound a little selfish, but bear with me. So basically, know yourself. So often we put on a front and a facade of what we think society wants us to be, what we've been taught, what we've been told, how our parents expected us to behave, and we now have acted that so well that we start to believe it. There's parts of us that we don't even know yet, which explains in a lot of our relationships is we don't even know what we really need. So how do we expect our partner to fulfill that? Big point. So often we're looking at, are we treating our partner like someone we love, but are we treating ourselves like someone we love? You need to fill up your own cup, remember. So treat yourself like somebody you love. Find out, spend more time with yourself. Find out what really is the deepest parts of yourself. What's your big premise deep down? What really makes you tick? What are your deep-seated insecurities? What are your deep-seated securities? This is all about finding your void or your voids and filling them yourself. So it's about finding your voids and filling them yourself. Now, how do we do that? Luckily for us, there's lots of tools on the web that we can use to help us in this regard, and I've included them in the course itself, in the text and in the worksheets. So the first one I'll be looking at is Tony Robbins' 6 emotional needs, and you'll see that I've actually split them into 2 separate colors. The reason for this being is the one set is very much the personal, self-focused, and the other is not so focused on yourself, but more outside of yourself. Very important. Another tool is by Dr. Gary Chapman, is the 5 love languages. Even though I think we respond to pretty much all of them, there's some that we prefer to be spoiled with. So go and take the quiz and discover what is your love language, and then get your partner to take the quiz and find out what's their love languages, and then swap notes and find out more on each other. There's another very interesting one called the Enneagram personality test. Now the link is here. You just have to go and answer the questions, and I find that pretty fascinating. That'll be quite an eye-opener as well. It's a lot of fun too. The other one that I think is pretty critical is Dr. John DeMartini has his values determinator. Now basically the premise that Dr. John DeMartini has is if we living aligned to our highest values, and where there's positive and negative feedbacks that always point to our highest values. It's the stuff that we naturally just gravitate to. And if we're able to focus to those, align with those, then basically then harmony tends to normally follow. So go find out, go determine your values as determined by the Dr. John DeMartini method. Also fascinating questionnaire to go through. Enjoy that. All right, so let's display know yourself and care for yourself first as a musical loop. All right, the first step in strategy in C.P.A.I. is know yourself and then care for yourself first. Fill your voice. Loop number 1. First, moving on to number 2, and cut. All right, number 2, letting go of ridiculous expectations. We really have the most ridiculous expectations that we've learned and picked up from society that we project onto our poor partners, that we expect them to uphold, and they just don't stand a chance. They're bound to fail as we are in trying to uphold their standards too. Now there's a comedian that has a brilliant way of showcasing our ridiculous expectations, and he tells a joke of basically what we all expect in our partner, and it's pretty hilarious. In fact, the joke itself is funnier than the punchline. One of the examples was they're looking for someone who's steadfast, and confident and won't waver, but that's not arrogant and stubborn and refuses to compromise. So those are the two. And he goes on and on and on and on and on. Please watch it. The link is there, and have a good giggle. It's great fun. Another way of looking at this is to say, I retire from any happiness or obligation debt to anybody else. You set yourself free, and you set your partner free too. Now, this doesn't give you a license just to be selfish and inconsiderate. That's not what it's all about at all. And I'm sure you already get that. And the thing we've got to remember, which is critical and pivotal, is any unmet expectations are opportunities for growth. I'll say that again. Any unmet expectation that your partner didn't fulfill for you, which they shouldn't have to, is an opportunity for growth. It's a way for you to also realize to know thyself and fill your own void. Find your void and fill your own void. Don't make it your partner's problem. Brilliant. So number 2, please, 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 please let go of those ridiculous expectations. All right, we're going to symbolize point 2, which is let go of ridiculous expectations as a sound loop. Let's start sound 1. That's loop 1. That was knowing yourself and caring for yourself and filling your own voice. Point 2. Let's beat down those silly expectations. Yes, please. All right, moving on to number 3. Number 3 is master the art of kinder conversations. We always let it escalate. Master the art of kinder conversations. Manners, man. Let's be polite. We must face the fact that there is going to be conflict and there is going to be confrontation. The trick is if we have kinder conversations, it doesn't escalate. Because it's when it escalates is when it turns into the full-blown passionate fights. How do we do this? We just have to express ourselves empathically so that we can be understood. Help your partner to understand by expressing yourself empathically. Understand their point of view and help them to understand your point of view kindly. Without screaming and shouting! So it's not an accusation, but it's a plea for help. So often we get defensive because a partner comes to us and says, but you always like this, and you always like the other thing, you always like the other thing. And you find that you then, hang on a second, you have to defend yourself because that wasn't your intention in the very first place. So here's how you handle it. The first thing you say to your partner is, I'm sorry you feel that way. It's them that's feeling that. It's not you making them feel that, it's their feeling. I'm sorry you feel that way. Point 1. Point 2, state, it was never my intention to make you feel the way you're doing. It was never my intention to make you feel the way you are feeling right now. And number 3, is there anything I can do to make it better? An important point in stopping things from escalating is to focus on the trigger itself. So often we focus on the person. So it is about not focusing on who triggered you, but it's focusing on what triggered me. And that way you're then leaving the person out of the equation and you're making it also about yourself. Remember, opportunity to know yourself, opportunity to fill your own voids. Okay, what is my trigger? How can I make that trigger less triggerable? And when you come to your partner with something that you feel has been bugging you, there's a more polite way of saying it as well. And that is, when you do this, this, and this, or when you say this, or this, and this, I feel hurt, betrayed, sad. I feel this, this, and this, and this. So when you do such and such, I feel such and such. And that way, they're saying, it's you owning the feeling, and you're making a plea for help to your partner to let them empathically understand that it hurts if that ever happens. And I'm sure your partner will, once realizing this, and not suddenly saying that you're a selfish son of a gun, then they won't get so defensive because they won't feel the need to defend themselves. They'll actually come to thinking, wow, this person is being vulnerable with me and they're sharing with me. And normally your empathic response is going to be care, it's going to be love, it's going to be compassion. Cool. So number 3, master the art of kinder conversations. Be empathic. Don't get triggered. Don't let it escalate. Let's put that down as a musical loop. Let's symbolize it. Okay, number 3. Let's master the art of kinder conversations. Let's symbolize that with some sound. All right, let's play our last two loops. Hey! Got it! All right, number 4. Celebrate our differences. Differences are something to celebrate. We're all unique. It's not a competition. No one's trying to outdo the other one. No one is keeping score. We're different. We're unique. And in that way, we celebrate each other. That way, everybody is a world champion because there's no one that is youer than you. There's no one that can ever compete at being more youer than you, because if they try to compete to be you, that'd be a watered down imitation of what you are. So, you are a one-of-a-kind, an ageless antique. The one thing you do have in common is you care for each other's welfare. So no matter whatever disagreements there are, basically you're wanting the same happiness for both of you at the end of the day. You're both on the same page. And most times the disagreements are not being on the same page as each other. Now I'm going to use a bit of an example here of our differences, and I'm going to kind of put people in a box here. Well, but yes, everyone is unique and individual, and a commonality to everything is we're all different. I'm going to just box mentality here just to make things simple. Okay, so let's look at regarding women and men. A lot of the clashes that come in relationships are that women are more emotionally biased and men are more logically biased. So let me give you an example of how a typical scenario could play out. The woman's frustrated about a certain thing. She wants to come home and she wants to just vent about it. She likes to get this emotionally off her chest. The man who's very logically biased just wants to rush in and fix it. If there's something about a goal that she wants to open up and be vulnerable and say, well, I think there's this that I need to work on or whatever, the man just wants to say straight in and fix it because we're logically minded, whereas the women are more emotionally biased, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so long as we understand that, then we can see it from that point of view. Women just want an empathic listener and wish that men were more emotional, and men wish that women were more logical and not so and not have the emotions run amok. We're different, and that is something to celebrate. So in any relationship, my weaknesses are my partner's strengths, and my partner's weaknesses are my strengths. I saw a comedian that once having us all in hysterics, how he described the feminine brain as being basically like this high-tech computer where everything is connected, and it's like this, everything's connected to everything else, and it's just like this big roll of wire and this motherboard of note, and it's able to run, it's got tons of RAM, and it's just able to maintain multiple tasks all at once. All right, and then now that in comparison to the male brain, where basically the male brain is completely different. Everything is compartmentalized. Everything has its own box. Like the one box would be sport, the other box would be motor vehicles, the other box would be tools, or beer, TV. And the most favorite box of all in the male camp is what they call the nothing box. And I think that's pretty much what comes out when we're watching TV or, or doing fishing or something along those lines. However, none of these boxes touch each other, and the only thing that we're able to do as men is, if we're going to focus on something we can only take out one box very carefully at a time, that it doesn't touch any of the others, and then unpack it very carefully. And when we're done with it, before we do anything else, we put it back very carefully, and before we can even look at taking out any kind of box whatsoever, which is going to thoroughly infuriate the females. But it also explains why quite often the men, when they focus on their one tasks, and then they can do it extremely well, which is why sometimes some of the fashion designers, top fashion designers in the world of men, some of the top chefs in the world of men, and those jobs have been kind of labeled as the more feminine side of jobs, if you know what I mean. It's why the joke there was also a man can babysit a child perfectly, just as good as a woman. But don't give him two. He can only focus on one at a time. Very, very fun. Hope all the men out there are giggling, and I hope all the women are giggling along with. Okay, we're different. How boring would this world be if we were all the same, if we all had the same tastes? Can you imagine a world where there was only country music, where there was only rap? The variety is the spice of life. All right, let's celebrate our differences and symbolize it with a loop. Another point, can you imagine if it was just all electric guitars and no acoustics? Can you imagine if there was just guitars and no pianos, no drums, no bass guitars? Can you imagine if there was no singing? Celebrate differences. Number 4, celebrating differences symbolized as sound. And cut. Great, there we are. All right, let's head over to point number 5. All right, point number 5, and this is the critical point. This is pivotal. This is the glue that cements a marriage and a relationship and a partnership. The point is the growth principle. It is basically the principle of that no matter what happens, it is seen as an opportunity for growth. No matter what happens, it is seen as an opportunity for growth. Everything that tests you and causes you discomfort is a feedback mechanism that is showing you an unhealthy attachment you need to transcend. I'll run that by you again. Anything that tests you and causes you discomfort is a feedback mechanism showing you an unhealthy attachment that you need to transcend. If you can grasp that concept, it's game over. It's a game changer, and you've got the keys to the kingdom. Go and celebrate. Jump straight into the cocaine phase and party. We need to see our discomforts and triggers as symptoms of misalignment with our deepest all-knowing soul self. Jeez, that's pretty deep, isn't it? But I think you get it. So whatever crap explodes in your faces, it is a grand opportunity for growth and expansion and even contribution. And growth and contribution are two big parts of Tony Robbins' essential human emotional needs. Right, so before we finish this loop and close it, let's do a quick little recap. Number 1, know yourself and care for yourself first to fill your voice. Number 2, let go of those ridiculous expectations. Number 3, master the art of kinder conversations. Number 4, celebrate our differences. It's not a competition. Number 5, the growth principle. Everything's here for us to expand. All right, let's make some music. Let's get to, let's close the full circle of C.P.A.I. All right, so we've come full circle. We've now about to close the circle on conscious, proactive, aligned intimacy. Let's make some music. Hey, yeah. Thinking about making dollars, not dimes. Gotta remind myself about the plus side. Lock nails it divided my mind. Subtracted all of my precious time. Who do I see coming round the bend? Fame and fortune, my two best friends. I know it's come to me. I can't wait to see myself on TV. Well, I found myself some peace of mind. Satisfy conscience and quiet my mind. Whatever I see, I just shoot on that by. Fame and fortune, now friends of mine. Friends of mine. Friends of mine. Friends of mine. Friends of mine.
The Big Cigar.